So this is patch 11.13 that just came out today, and it's a big one. It's a bigger patch. This is probably going to be this is most likely the biggest patch we'll have before the end of the season. So this is going to be a pretty big change up to a lot of champions. Some item change-ups, some new items, some rune changes. I see notes in here about turrets and summoner spells being updated a bit. There's a lot of shit in this patch, so we might be here a little while. I'll try to like speed through the simple changes, and then there's gonna be a couple of changes that we're gonna look at a bit more closely, and we will do so with the smaller window, with the practice tool, and we'll actually physically look at the changes. Mage is much stronger now, it seems. Bender boy, what's up? I hope that's the case, man. If mages are even stronger, that is wonderful for me. So, let's just jump into this, yeah? So, the sort of preamble here. Hello, fancy seeing you here in these parts. Things have been cooking away for a while, and we're finally able to serve you a whole feast in 11.13. And you know what? This music, I think, we're gonna shake this up here. Just so I have, there we go, some more steady kind of background music I could talk over. There we go. Things have been cooking away for a while. We're finally able to serve you a whole feast at 11.13. This is largely a systems-based patch, where most of our work went into reducing mobility. In short, we're pulling back on the places where mobility has crept up, including a few items that have gone beyond the limits of where they should be. We're also looking to enhance the split push strategy and improve its gameplay to add variety and excitement to the overall end game. This is so exciting for me from a spectator perspective, casting and watching pro games and just watching people play the game. Split pushing being actually addressed and defined and given some attention is exciting to me from that perspective. From the gameplay perspective of me playing the game, I hate this. I hate everything about it. I'm scared. I don't want it. I'm afraid of change. I am so afraid of watching games slip away from me because we just got run down by a split pusher or something like that. We won a good team fight, it was close, but it was a 5v4 and that one guy that wasn't there is just taking our base or something. I am so afraid of that, but we'll get there. Speaking of eating, this patch also has a mini rework Tahm Kench. He's got a fresh kit, visual effects, and licks. Because he's got a tongue. So gobble away, friends. We'll see you in the next one. And then there's TFT patch notes, and they already bug fixed Silas a little bit, because of course he would get broken, but we'll go on to that. So here's our main rundown here. We've got nerfs to Kayn, just in general. We got nerfs to Lee Sin for top and mid, because he's very strong in pro and elite play. We've got nerfs to Rumble for mid and jungle, because he's very strong in skilled elite and pro play. And then we've got a nerf to Riven for top lane, because she is very strong in skilled and elite play. And then we got buffs to Aphelios. I love to see that. We got buffs to Olaf. I'm a little mixed about that, honestly. And buffs to Xayah. Cool. We've got updates and adjustments to Tahm Kench's mini rework. And Viego's adjustment. System-wise, we've got 2 new items. We've got adjustments to all the mobility-affecting items. We've got adjustments to Smite. We've got adjustments to other items. We've got adjustments to the mana mythics for mages. And we've got adjustments to runes. This is a big patch. And you can see, most of the changes, most of the weight of the changes is all in the systems and stuff, right? There's hardly any changes, to direct champions compared to a normal patch, right? But all of the the systematic changes are going to affect everybody, you know? So, champions, Aphelios. Passive bonus damage and lethality increase. Our 11-12 buffs to Aphelios steered him in the right direction, but cost him more in elite play than we'd hoped, leaving him weaker overall. This means he could use another push forward, so we're adding some oomph to benefit all players across skill levels by boosting his less popular rank ups. So, the bonus damage from his leveling his Q, which for Aphelios, leveling Q gives you bonus AD. So that is just giving you more bonus AD. Looks like 1 more rank 1, 2 more rank 2, 3 more rank 3, and so on. So not quite perfectly linearly, but you know, as much as 6 more bonus AD at rank 6 on that. But it's nice if you're leveling the Q on Aphelios for extra bonus AD, you're getting more out of it. And same with lethality, right? The lethality has always been, since his release, lethality has been his least popular rank up. It's always been his bonus AD on Q and the bonus attack speed on W have been his main two. I like the idea of getting the free lethality on him, but it's just never been as strong as leveling the other two. So hopefully this makes, I mean, I'm not an ADC main. I don't play Aphelios or Marksman all that much, aside from playing like normals or friends, but hopefully this makes the lethality build maybe a bit stronger for him. You know, maybe this makes Aphelios stronger when leveling the lethality against a composition that maybe they don't have like a true tank, but maybe they have some champions that can build some armor, right? So like if the enemy supports and enemy, I don't know, mid laner or top laner build like steel caps for their boots, and if they build like maybe a mage builds hourglass or something like that, this might help Aphelios get through those kind of defenses, but it's not going to be a replacement for like actual armor penetration for a tank, right? If you're against a tank, you're still going to need to build LDR, maybe Blade of the Rune King, stuff like that. So Aphelios buff, good. Kayn, W visual effects now revealed when in terrain. We are addressing a unique, frustrating case where Kayn's visual effects is hidden when he's in terrain. Hiding visual effects while out of vision is standard for many abilities, but since it's impossible for players to gain vision within terrain, it's fair to give players the opportunity to react to Kayn's spells. He's also uniquely able to exist within terrain for an extended period of time, which is why we are implementing this rule on him specifically. So, the standard rule is you cannot see things that are inside of terrain, but since Kayn is the one champion that can just kind of dance around in terrain for a long period of time, he's been able to basically hit you with invisible W's, and you can't do shit about it because you don't even see it coming. So that's a good change in my opinion. Makes sense why they would do it to Kayn. It is technically a bit of a nerf, but you know, that's how it goes. Lee Sin, base damage on E decreased later. Lee has been dominating mid and top lane in all levels of play, especially at the highest tiers. We're tempering down the max power of one of his more reliable in-lane abilities so that we're not blindsiding him in the jungle. That's a pun. So yeah, basically they're taking some damage off of his E because his Q is a skill shot. His ulti has a, you know, relatively long cooldown because it's an ult. His W is a more utility ability, right? You don't want to nerf those abilities because like those are the parts of his kit that are like part of his skill expression of playing Lee Sin is how you weave in your Q, W, and ulti, right? But his E is just straight damage and a slow. It's not really, you know, you just get next to somebody and you hit E and you do damage, right? So there's no skill expression from the E on its own. So nerfing the E makes good sense if you're going to nerf Lee Sin to some degree without hurting his like skill expression and outplay potential. So good change. It's the same at level 1, 10 less at rank 2, 20 less at rank 3, 30 less at rank 4, and 40 less at rank 5. So level 1 E still the same. So early laning with Lee Sin should be the same for you if you're laning with him in mid and top lane. Maybe you max the E later now. I don't know what the max order is for Lee Sin normally because it's not my role, but yeah. Patch Day Woo, what's up, Sam? What's up, Vatos? How you doing, man? And Bender Boy, thank you for being here as well. All of you guys. Don't lane Lee Sin's max E? Probably, I would assume. That would make sense for the wave clear. So, it'll maybe hurt his laning a little bit, but he's still a strong champ overall, I think. Probably still strong in the jungle. I don't know. Olaf, base health growth increased. Mana regen and mana growth rounded up. Olaf has been pretty stalled in recent patches. We're giving him more durability throughout the game and rounding up some numbers. So he now gets 100 health per level instead of 93. He gets a nice round 7.5 instead of 7.47 for mana regen. And he gets 0.6 mana per level instead of 0.58. So that makes sense. Riven. the base shield strength on her E reduce. Riven is a champion who can block, dock, and knock up enemies at will, leaving enemies both wounded in their health bars and egos. This means she is especially strong and skilled in lead play, where on-demand shields are more readily used and capitalized on. By lowering some of her abilities to mitigate damage, she'll need to be more careful before dashing into her next battle. Again, similar to the Lee Sin change, this makes good sense to me, right? You're nerfing... You're not really you're not hurting Riven's skill expression, you're not hurting her outplay potential. You're hurting the actual strength of the shield itself. So she can't just kind of pseudo tank by using her shield to suck up damage and absorb damage, right? So makes good sense. It's only 10 less at rank 5. Like, that's not a massive deal. That's a tiny little nerf. It's a little slap on the wrist nerf. Like, you're getting a little too strong. Stop that, knock it off, and then a little nerf. So good change. Rumble. W cooldown increased early and now scales. Bonus movement speed decreased. Despite his constant visits to the patch notes this season, Rumble's still hot on his enemy's tracks in both the mid lane and jungle. We're cooling down his early clear speed and slowing down his roaming and ganking power. So his W now has a scaling cooldown. So it's the same at rank 5, but it is longer up until then. Most Rumbles, as far as I know, don't max his W. Maybe they do in the jungle. Maybe jungle Rumble maxes W. I could be, you know, let's just go ahead and look that up while we're here. I feel like this one's worth looking up, honestly. So, so in the jungle, he starts W, does not max it. So W is usually the last max for the jungle, for mid, and for top. Yeah, so you usually max it last, but you do usually start the W so that you can overheat and punch the shit out of stuff level 1, which is what Vatos is saying in the chat there. So yeah, so basically you cannot overheat level 1, possibly. And they're also reducing some of the bonus movement speed on it. Real quick, let's just take a look at that. Let's just, for the hell of it, let's get Rumble. What are his runes normally? He goes Dark Harvest and Sorcery a lot of the time. So let's just grab a Harvest rune page. Doesn't need to be perfect. Let's just grab Nimbus Cloak Transcendence, I guess. Mana flow will change over because he doesn't have mana. This is fine. Let's just do this. Let's check out what Rumble looks like. So, here's the Rumble change. We're going to load into a practice game real quick and see what that looks like. I'm also a garbage jungler, so I'm gonna try to like start like red buff here and with Rumble on his own, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to kill it. So assuming we're starting like Ember Knife and some pots, I guess, you know. We have W. We get over here. We need to speed the game up a little bit. 30 seconds, another 30 seconds. Another... It should spawn in a second, so... Alright, so we start red buff. We W. Longer cooldown. And then our... Yep, so we completely reset our heat before we can get W up again, right? The heat decays, we hit W, so we cannot overheat level 1 anymore on our own with W. So this makes Rumble's early jungle clear pretty difficult compared to before. Not impossible, right? You still get that little bit of a shield from it. You can still smite it. You can solo red buff level 1. You can do it. So even without a leash, you could do it. This just makes Rumble a little bit more leash reliant, I think, in an average game. Although, quite honestly, I don't see a lot of Rumble in the jungle in average play. I see him, you see him a lot in pro play, right? So, and then once you have your, you know, W and your Q, you can better AoE things down a little bit. Still a little harder to get some heat up We got decent bit of heat there. Level 2, you should be able to start overheating if you're spamming your W and Q quite a bit, but there you go. We're just gonna get out of that. So there's the change to Rumble.
Victory.
No more overheating level 1. Tahm Kench. So this is where we're gonna spend a lot more time in the practice tool here. So Tahm Kench got a full miniature rework. So we're just gonna get out of there. We're gonna go not to Nexus Splits, back to the practice tool. So let's take a look at Tahm Kench here, shall we? So let's say Flash Ignite. Let's assume we're playing a more supporty Tahm Kench because he typically is a support. But let's take a look at him. So mini rework for Tahm Kench. Devour and Ulti have been swapped and reworked. This is very similar to the Diana mini rework they did a while back, where they swapped her pull used to be on her E, and then her dash used to be on her ulti, and they swapped them to where she could dash more reliably, and then they buffed up the the gravity like pull thing to be her ultimate. So she pulls everyone in, gets a shield, and does a ton of damage based on how many targets she pulled in. So she has like an initiation tool with that. So it made Diana much more consistent, much more reliable, less kind of spammy and snowballing, because old Diana played kind of like old Akali, where if Diana was snowballing, she could mark you with her Q and then just spam her ulti dash on you and just beat the shit out of you, and you couldn't do anything about it. So the Diana mini rework made her much more consistent and kind of reliable, right? That's kind of what they're doing with Tahm Kench here. So, like old Akali and Katarina, yeah. Exactly. So, we'll just, we'll have Tahm Kench dancing around here, and we'll take a look at his actual notes real quick. I'm going to disable, I'm going to turn off minion spawn real quick, and yeah. Alright, so the Kench is shinier and slimier than ever with a pretty big update this patch. Historically, our favorite Catfish has been limited by his power because his kit is so strong in professional play, forcing him to remain weak for the vast majority of players. To resolve this, we're making a few major adjustments, so buckle up. First, we're moving power from Devour, which is heavily used in coordinated play to completely negate allies' weaknesses and enemies' actions, into other abilities that reward him for proactive play. Previously, Tom's main contributions revolved around standing by to unconditionally save an ally with Devour. With this rework, he will need to take greater risks with his new Abyssal Dive and capitalize on licks and cool tricks. Tongue healing, anyone? Secondly, we're making Devour easier to use with allies. They will now see a clear indicator when Devour is available, so they know when to run to him for safety. Third, we're adjusting Abyssal Voyage from being entirely about coordinating with an ally for a cross-map play, a strength heavily restricted to pro play environments, into being an ability that works on its own. Last but not least, he's getting new visual effects so that the Kench can get a leg up on his competition in style. So they've also adjusted his base stats. So 570 down from 600 for base health, 95 health per level instead of 100, more mana per level, 50 from 40, less armor per level, or excuse me, less base armor, so 5 less base armor, and slightly less magic resist. 0.1 less magic resist. Not a big deal there. His passive now does 2.5% of his max health as bonus damage instead of 4% of his max health. So less damage on his passive, which is kind of nice in my opinion. Q. Tahm Kench can now cast his ulti during Tongue Lash to swallow champions stunned by Tongue Lash. So previously, let's go ahead and let's go level 6 at least, right? So let's say we're maxing Q here. Let's get a enemy. We're wondering if his Q applies his passive damage. We can test that out real quick. Let's get a. How do I video game? Spawn enemy dummy. Shift B. I used to have these keybinds down, but I forgot. So, with old Tahm Kench, you could not, you could use his Q and Devour to, and also let's do auto-refreshing cooldown so I don't have to deal with that. So with old Tahm Kench, you could Q Devour together, just Q and Devour together, to grab a minion from afar, or like Scuttle Crab or something like that, but you could not do it on champions, right? Now, once you get your stacks up, you can grab enemy champions with his Devour from range, but only once you have all 3 stacks. So 1, 2 stacks, and then QR, not enough, right? QR, once it has all stacks, does work. And then you can eat. So the ideal scenario for this, if you imagine, if you're running somebody down, you're chasing somebody down, you are chasing them down, they're running away from you, kiting you, you get free autos out, maybe they flash away or something, and you're, let's refresh that, maybe they flash away and you're now over here, then you can grab them and bring them back. Maybe you use the flash yourself, right? Maybe you can get stacks on somebody and then flash backwards, Q, eat, and then throw them into a tower or something like that, right? I don't know. Something like that. But you can do that with enemy champions now. Okay? So that was this change here that we were talking about. Tongue Lash now heals for percentage of his missing health when an enemy champion is struck, which is kind of cool. So let me go get some damage real quick. Let me eat some damage real quick. Okay, so we took some damage, right? And now we're gonna Q, and we get healed. So whenever Tahm Kench Qs a champion, he heals a little bit. So he's got some sustain from poking with his Q. Of course, you won't have these kind of cooldowns, right? Because I have the no cooldowns thing right now. But you heal from his Q hitting a champion now. Only champions. Cool. Official mini taste. Tongue Lash now applies. Sorry, I got an Amber Alert on my phone. Tongue Lash now applies a stack of his passive to the enemy champion it hits. Which we saw, right? So previously you would have to auto attack in order to get all of your stacks up, but now you can Q to apply stacks and then, you know, do other stuff with it. Cool. Those are the changes to his Q. Also, range and missile speed now scales up with his size. So, just for the hell of it, let's add some gold here. Let's take a look at... So if we make Tahm Kench big, we want Frostfire Gauntlet. That'll make us a little bit bigger. And then let's get a Warmogs, and let's get one of these, and I don't know, one of these. There's one of the new items is there. We'll get to that in a minute. And then let's say Gargoyle Stuffplate, right? So now we have big Tahm Kench, right? So big Tahm Kench with no boots is very slow. The big Tahm Kench, you kind of remember what that Q looked like before? Look at that Q range. So the bigger Tahm Kench is, the faster his Q is, and also the longer it is as well. I keep missing. There we go. Set it up. So if we were to, for example, there's his Q currently, right? Not quite reaching. And then we do gargoyles. Now it reaches. Because we're bigger, right? So there's all the changes to his Q. And of course some base number changes as well. You know, flat 40% slow. The slow doesn't scale anymore. Slow duration is a little bit shorter. The cooldown scales down now. The mana cost also scales down, so it costs less mana later in the game, which is nice. So yeah, that's everything to his Q. His new W, Abyssal Dive, mind you. So now his W and his ulti have switched. Tahm Kench channels for 1.35 seconds, dives for 0.15 seconds, and then appears at the target area, dealing damage plus 100% of AP scaling. That's exciting. I want to play AP Kench now. Damage and knocking up enemies for 1 second. Hitting an enemy champion refunds 30% of its cooldown and mana cost. Tahm Kench can take devoured allies along for the ride. Allies can always eject before the channel finishes, just like before. Enemies cannot see where Tahm Kench is heading until 0.75 seconds into the channel. And there's the cooldown scaling and the mana cost, right? So, Tahm Kench's new W. You can kind of see the range of it there, yeah. So, so this is like his ult, but now it's a knockup, right? So he can, and you can do it shorter, right? So, pop. It's a very telegraphed dive and knockup, right? Almost feels kind of like a Rek'Sai burrow, if you think about it that way, right? But you can also combo this with eating an ally. So if we get an ally dummy, right here, we can also grab an ally and then jump away with them to safety, and then spit them out somewhere else. And they get a shield too when that happens. So, oops, we don't want to do that. So we eat them, and then we can jump away, and ally is safe. Or maybe you have another frontliner. Maybe you're playing support Kench and there's another frontliner you want to get in, right? So, you know, we can eat our frontliner and then dive in over a wall, and bam, frontliner's now in to the enemies with you. Two beefy boys diving into the front line, or diving into the back line rather, right? Just for added example, right? Let's say, I don't know, we have vision over here or something. We have an ally. We can eat ally, jump over the wall, either to safety or to engage over walls and stuff like that. So lots of versatility used here. I'm excited to see some more Tahm Kench just in general with this now. This is really exciting. So yeah, let me clear the dummies out real quick. And keep looking at his changes. Let me get another enemy dummy out. So that's his new W. Again, his old, that used to be his ulti basically, and it's now switched. His E works the same, but some number tuning. The shield lasts a little bit longer on his E, which is kind of nice. His gray health healing over time has been slightly increased to 10% max health per quarter second. Very nice. And time before the gray health healing is after 4 seconds of not taking damage. So basically, Tahm Kench needs to be out of combat longer in order for the healing to take effect, but the gray health healing is a bit stronger when it does, and if he chooses to reactivate the E for his shield, it lasts a little bit longer, right? So just so you can see what that looks like. So if we take damage, right? Oh, I have all these items, so it's gonna, you can kind of see the gray health there, because I have all these items, but, so gray health tick it away, right? And then if we get out of combat, it takes 4 seconds now for his gray health to start healing up. And then, of course, we have Warmogs now, too. But if we go back into turret range, take a bunch of damage. And then if we want to reactivate his E for the shield now lasts 2.5 seconds instead of just 2 seconds. So, nice little change there. And then his ulti. We already kind of looked at it a little bit, but here's the actual description. Tahm Kench swallows the target champion for up to 3 seconds. If the champion is an enemy, they must have 3 stacks of his passive first, and take damage plus 5% per 100 AP, maximum health as magic damage. Tahm Kench is also grounded, so he cannot use flash or any dashes or anything like that. So the thing we were describing with the ally, where you can eat an ally and then jump away with them, that only works with ally champions. We cannot do that with enemy champions. Like this, so this is an enemy champion unit. If I eat him, I cannot use the W. I can't flash, I can't do anything like that. I can only walk with him, right? So that's only for enemy champions. If the champion is an ally, they are given a shield that scales with 100% of AP, which I like a lot. That lasts for 2.5 seconds after Devour ends. Tahm Kench is also grounded and slowed by movement speed. Slowed by, you know, this much movement speed. But he can still cast W. So Tahm Kench's allies can see when Devour is available on his health bar, but enemies cannot. So when you eat an ally, you cannot flash with them, but you can do the W. So that's the only mobility thing that you can do with Tahm Kench with an ally in your belly. So there's Tahm Kench. There's Tahm Kench's rework, basically. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see more of it. I like the fact that Tahm Kench is finally potentially out of pro prison, and he might be a more versatile pick for average play and people not in pro play. I'm excited for that. When Tahm Kench was first announced, he was like, I was really excited for him because I love the idea of being able to grab an ally and save them and physically move them out of the way. You know, like if somebody's positioning really poorly, you can physically grab them and save them from being stupid. I like that. But that hasn't really lived up in average play because for the longest time in pro play, it's been stand next to your ADC, and then as soon as the ADC starts getting dove on, you eat them, and then, you know, they're fine, right? But that is no longer only for pro play. So, cool. I'm excited to see more Tahm Kench now. Very good. Moving on to Viego here. Q healing from minions decreased, so less lane sustain for Viego. The base movement speed on his E, the missile speed, and the zone length increased. So, less sustain in lane, but he can now get more creative with hiding in his E and using the mist to like flank fights and dance around fights and stuff like that. So that's a good change. I like that. I do miss... I mean, I enjoy playing Viego in normals with friends and stuff like that, and I even played him in the jungle a couple times at ranked when I got autofill jungle. So I do kind of miss the free sustain on minions, but his sustain should still be good in the jungle, and he still gets good self-healing on champions when you fight champions, so not bad. It's a good little tweak nerf, but not a big deal, in my opinion. I think we will see less lane Viego in pro play from that, though, personally. But Xayah, let me get some water here real quick. So Xayah, base damage on Q per feather blade and max total damage increased. Xayah's been feeling weak at all levels of play, so we're fluffing her feathers by giving a good sized buff to her Q, which tends to be max later in the game. Our intention is to buff her in a way that benefits all Xayahs, regardless of which ability you choose to max first, while also helping those who decide to max Q first stay more competitive. So, 25 more base damage per feather at rank 5, 50 more max total damage at rank 5 as well. Sounds good. I don't play a lot of Xayah. She's one of my least played ADCs, honestly. I probably should play her more. But, yeah. Nice little buff to Xayah. Now, items. So we have new items in the game. This is exciting. We might need to do another practice tool exploration for this. Anathema's Chains is our first new item. Are you a tank? Is there an annoying enemy on the end of the team? Boy, do we have an item for you. With Anathema's Chains, you can select one unlucky foe to be easier prey. Vengeance can be yours today. On a more serious note, this item gives tanks a unique defensive advantage when sparring against a single target while also providing offensive CC. This should be especially useful. I feel like I'm like slurring all my words today. I'm sorry. This should be especially useful when you're in a game where you keep encountering the same enemy or someone you just don't like. So basically, this is targeted damage mitigation and CC extension against one enemy that you choose. So let's let me cancel that real quick. Nope. Training practice tool, yes. So let's add a bot. Sure. Let's say it's Cassio. I'll put Darius bot in case Psycho shows up. Let's put Darius bot in there. So let's put him on beginner. So let's pick a tank. Let's pick a supporting tank, I guess. Let's do. Who's got good CC? Let's do Nautilus. Why not? Let's do Nautilus. So we are looking at the new tank item, Anathema's Chains. So total cost for the item, 2,500 gold. It's a giant's belt and candle gem and 800 gold. It gives you 650 health and 20 haste. Decent base stats on it, but the effects are what's important here. So, the active for it is you choose a nemesis to start building a vendetta over 1 minute, 60 seconds. Has global range, must be used out of combat, and can be used while dead, 90-second cooldown. So basically, it's kind of like the support items where you bind to an ally, like Zeke's Convergence or Knight's Vow, but it's for one enemy. The Vendetta is you take 1% reduced damage from your nemesis per Vendetta stack. This damage reduction starts at 0% and stacks up to 30% over the 1 minute. So, after 1 minute of the Vendetta, you have a flat 30% damage reduction against that one scary smurfing asshole on the enemy team, basically, right? And at max stacks, your nemesis has 20% reduced tenacity while near you, and that also goes below 0, by the way. So if they have no tenacity, they just get CC'd for 20% longer. So let's give ourselves some gold here, right? Let's level up to, let's say, level 6, right? Let's say we're maxing. Let's max the Q for the cooldown. Why not? Auto refresh cooldowns and mana. We will buy. Let's say we're buying. Let's just buy Anathema's chain. Well, we won't buy Anathema's chains yet because I want to show the example for it. So where's this Darius at? Let me fast forward a bit. Okay, so Darius is in bot lane, right? He's pushing. Okay. So if we go, what does he have items-wise? He has like no items. Okay. So let's I don't know. Let's say we have this, which is already quite a strong, right? So we show up to Darius, right? And he's level 2. He's very scared of us. So if we go to CC him, right? Bonk. So he's CC'd for, you know, rooted, right? Okay, good. Now let's go back. Let's buy the new Anathema's chains. And then the active for it. So we hit. So you hit the active for it. So in this case, it's on 3. So we're gonna hit 3, and we're gonna target the Darius. And now it is active. You can see we have the Vendetta, and the Darius has a debuff for Anathema's chains, right? It might be a little hard to see in the picture-in-picture there, so let's go to a full screen. So you can see Darius has a debuff now, Anathema's chains, and our Vendetta is stacking, right? It stacks over the full minute. So now when we show up to Darius, so when we pop, so let's hit Darius. Let's see if he hits us back at all. I don't know. So he's gonna hit us. So we take reduced damage. We're already very tanky. We're already like way ahead of him in items and whatever, right? But no increased he doesn't have the reduced tenacity yet, right? If we fast forward a bit and we stack up the Vendetta, right? So now we're at 30 stacks. We're at the max stacks now, right? And now when we go to CC Darius, see how he's got the mark on him? He gets rooted longer than he would have before. He gets CC'd longer because we have the Anathema's chains on him. Because he has reduced tenacity. He has less tenacity than he otherwise normally would. I can hide that. And again, I'm cheating because I have the, you know, the practice tool, you know, things on, right? So that's the new tank item, Anathema's chains. That's exciting. If I could see this getting a lot of use in solo queue, honestly. Like, this feels like such a solo queue friendly item to me. To be able to target, like, that one guy that's just smurfing and popping off the enemy team, and if you're playing a tanky support or just a tank in the top lane or a tank in the jungle, and to be able to target them and, like, have reduced damage against that one carry, right? Think about how many average solo queue games are completely decided by, like, one guy being scary, and the rest of the team is kind of meh. This is so nice for that kind of scenario. I'm really excited to see this item get used a lot. Really cool item. The other cool new item is Hullbreaker. This is the split pushing item. which I'm a little afraid to look at, honestly, but we're going to look at it anyway. So, who's a famous split pusher? Let's look at Nasus for the sake of it, right? Let's say we're running Grasp on him. I don't know. Just whatever. Let's look at Nasus, right? So, Hullbreaker is the other new item. Many fighters struggle to convert leads into wins right now, especially through split pushing. Hullbreaker's goal is to give them a strategic purchase where they can opt into a heavy and powerful split push strategy at the cost of being isolated from their team. At the cost of being isolated from their team. This is concerning me for the sake of solo queue, but we'll talk about that. This item should allow for the split pusher to take down towers and whoever comes to stop them. It also gives them a way to push through tanks and towers, similar to how old Better of Command worked, except now they have to stick with the minion to continue barreling down the lane. So the build path is a pickaxe, a phage, and 825 gold. It gives you 50 AD, 300 health, and 150% health regen. But here's the effect on it. When no allied champions are nearby, so you need to be alone in order to get the benefit from this. And by the way, this is replacing Sanguine Blade, so Sanguine Blade is gone now, and this kind of replaces it. When no allied champions are nearby, you gain 20 to 45 armor and MR based on levels from 9 to 18. So if you build this super early before level 9, this doesn't really benefit you. So you probably still want to build your Mythic first, most likely. And deal 20% increased damage to towers. Large minions nearby also gain 60 to 135 armor based on the level and MR, and deal 200% increased damage to towers. So this item makes you do a little bit more damage to towers, the 20%, but it makes your minions do 200% increased damage to towers. So again, let's say we're playing Nasus. Let's give ourselves some gold, mana, cooldowns, I guess. Let's fast forward the game like 10 minutes here, so minions are gonna do their thing. Let's buy. Okay, so let's say we've got Grasp. We've got. We're gonna wait on the Hullbreaker. Let's say we got Grasp and some boots, and that's it for now. We're just gonna go with that for now. Okay. We will level up a little bit here. Let's get to level 9 at least, because that's when the thing is, right? There's a clusterfuck of minions. Oh god, I'm sorry. Whoops. The acceleration kind of messed with the minions a little bit, but here, can we toggle minions real quick? Can we there. Let's yeah, okay. Let's re-enable minions here. Let's get a fresh minion spawn here. So let me make sure I got Hullbreaker here. So let's go mid with this, and we will. So this is, you know, normal Nasus, right? You're split pushing, you're clearing the wave, right? And I'm cheating because this is practice tool, but you know, you're split pushing, right? Minions, tower, we have Demolish, right? So there's the Demolish hit. We're doing, you know, 70, 213. We're doing a bit of damage, right? 70 damage to tower, right? Okay, bear that in mind. Now, we're going to go back. We're going to grab the Hullbreaker. And we're going to come back to mid lane. So now, we have this special mark on us. We are alone. We have Hullbreaker. We are going to, you know, clear the wave as we did, right? We're going to push up to the tower. And now, our minions are tankier. We're doing 119 per auto attack, right? We have more AD as well, so that's also worth bearing in mind. And we are absolutely trucking through this tower. And our minions are more durable as well, right? So we can back off a little bit. And then if we were to level up some more, let's say level 18 now, right? Now our minions are massive, right? So, boop. So we basically have now banner or command minions, but we are the banner or command, right? We need to be near the minions in order to, and you can see the swirly on the cannon to show that it is, you know, more durable, right? So yeah, new Hullbreaker, new item for split pushing for fighters. I'm a little concerned about seeing things like Nasus and Yorick and split pushers take over solo queue, but it's also kind of exciting at the same time. It is some variety. What I'm really afraid of is I'm afraid of, like, Master Yi building this shit, right? I'm afraid of, like, having a game where, like, say you have, like, a Master Yi in your jungle or something like that on your team, and he builds that and, like, refuses to group with you because he wants to split push and all that, which can work, right? It's just that for how I usually play and how I like to play, I like playing with my team. I like team fighting. I like that team macro play and rotational play, stuff like that, right? And this, for some players in solo queue, I could see this being like an excuse to never, ever, ever help your team, right? Because you're directly disincentivized from being with your team, right? If you want this bonus, you need to be with your team, right? So I'm afraid that some players are going to take that to an extreme of like, I'm never going to help my team, when it's like, you can still group with your team to help take an objective or take a fight, and then once you get some map control, say either by winning the fight or taking an objective or maybe poking them out, then you can go split push with this item, you know what I mean? But I'm a little afraid that like players are going to build this and like refuse to ever acknowledge the rest of their team, you know? Also, what do you do if you have like 2 people on your team that build this, right? What if your top laner and jungler both build this, right? Like, they need to not be near each other. They need to, like, split push separate lanes, and now you have, like, a 1-3-1 setup, which can work. 1-3-1s are strong in organized play when you can communicate that properly with your team. A 1-3-1 is really hard to pull off in solo queue for the average player, in my opinion, right? So, there are some solo queue concerns with this for average play. The game should not be solely designed for that kind of play. I get it, you know? The game design and the game balance is, a delicate balance between pro play and average play and solo queue and whatnot. So, it makes sense. But there are some interesting concerns I have with this and the play styles that it's going to encourage. Just me personally. But it's exciting. It's a new item. We have new items in the game. That's exciting. I really like Anathema's chains for playing tanky supports, maybe, or just tanks in general. Being able to target, like, that one stupid fed Yasuo on the enemy team that's smurfing, and you can just, like, directly take less damage and lock him down longer with this item. That's really cool. This basically directly goes against, like, funneling strategies, too, which funneling strategies aren't much of a thing right now, but, like, when they are a thing, right, if you end up against, like, a funneled Master Yi or something like that, you can build this and target the Yi and be like, okay, the Yi does less damage now. So all those resources that team funneled into that one carry is now directly less effective thanks to one item on a tank, right? Cool. I like it. Mobility items. As mentioned back in May, we are doing an overall pass at movement speed within items and runes. We've adjusted items that have either passively crept up in movement speed, like Lichbane and Trinity Force, or have effects that weaken player expectations of what's considered a safe range or escape route, such as Shurelya's and Nimbus Cloak. Most of these changes are expected to be power neutral, but we also threw in tweaks based on whether the item was over or underperforming. A special note for Stridebreaker. While Stridebreaker's active is an exciting output for many fighters, it has heavily weakened the Juggernaut class's primary weakness, mobility. Juggernauts excel once they begin combat on their terms, so an item that allows a Juggernaut to close gaps makes it inherently very powerful, not to mention its damage and ability to be reused. To address this, we're altering its active to better suit Juggernaut's needs and boosting its stats to amp up their strengths, rather than covering their weaknesses. So, basically you cannot dash with Stridebreaker anymore. So we'll just take a quick look at that, just because I do want to see it. Take a look at, let's be Darius because he's a Juggernaut. And we'll take a look at Stridebreaker that can no longer dash. It still has the slash, you just need to be already on top of somebody in order to actually get use out of it, is the idea, I think. So we're going to take a look at that. Call from an 800 number, we're going to block that. My phone is very active today. So if you remember, we're gonna give ourselves some gold, mana energy, cooldowns. We will level up a couple times. We will turn off minions. And then, so again, let's say you're playing Darius. You've got your Stridebreaker. You've got some boots. some sort.
30 seconds to
Maybe you're working on Black Cleaver. Let's just get a Black Cleaver. Why not? So, new Stridebreaker. You have an enemy. Stridebreaker just does that. This is Stridebreaker now. I'm not targeting it. I'm not dashing with it. It doesn't go anywhere. It just does this. So you need to already get onto somebody in order to use it. And then it will hit them with a slow. It will do damage and hit them with a slow that decays over 3 seconds. So you need to already get onto somebody in order to use the Stridebreaker, right? If a pineapple, wait, it's a good nerf? I think so. It's a good nerf, right? It doesn't... It basically makes it to where, like, Juggernaut picks have to be Juggernauts now, right? They have to be slow and immobile, and they can't just, like, get a free gap close, right? If you want to get a good gap close with a Juggernaut, you need to flash now, and then you can do Stridebreaker, and then follow up with your other, you know, bullshit, whatever you're doing, right? So, you know, there you go. So, good nerf for Stridebreaker. Happy with that. Less abusive. But you can cast it while moving now. The damage is increased on it. The slow is heavier, and it decays over 3 seconds. The cooldown is shorter now. You get less bonus movement speed. You get less bonus movement speed from the passive, from the Mythic passive. And then, of course, Ornn's versions are a little bit tweaked as well. Gale Force, less passive movement speed and less on the Ornn upgrade as well. Lichbane, less passive movement speed, a little bit more AP on Lichbane, so nice compensation for Lichbane. Cosmic Drive, more AP and less movement speed. I am okay with this. I love Cosmic Drive on Zilean anyway, and getting more AP from it, great. Zilean is already fast as fuck, don't care. So for me, Cosmic Drive is still great. Like, I still love Cosmic Drive. Definitely a little bit weaker, but again, the whole idea is that too many champions were getting, like, free mobility from items alone, and were negating their own mobility weaknesses that are there by design, and this is trying to rein that in. So, Black Cleaver, similar idea, more health, less movement speed per stack. Dead Man's Plate, the build-up duration is shorter, but lower speed. And the bonus damage is also lower. The bonus damage is lower baseline, but now scales with base AD. So Dead Man's Plate is now stronger if you have more base AD. So synergizes well with things like Triforce and things like that, right? And Sheen procs and stuff like that. Builds that tend to use Sheen procs and things like that. Trinity Force, 5 more AD, less speed, and 5 more AD on the Ornn version as well. Death's Dance now heals for 15% of your max health, up from 10, so more healing on Death's Dance, but takedowns do not give you movement speed anymore. So Death's Dance is more like purely dancing around death and not dancing around death and then sprinting away from it. It's like only dancing around death now. Shirelia's, the bonus movement speed from Inspire, which is the passive of it, is cut in half. So 30% flat and does not decay. And same thing for Ornn's version. But I believe the active of Shirelia's is still the same. So Shirelia's is still strong, just not nearly as strong as it was before. Personally, at least for me when I'm playing Zilean and when I'm playing Enchanter supports, I think Moonstone's at a good spot again. I like Moonstone a little bit better personally, but Shirelia's is still a good option if you are either lacking mobility or if you're trying to enhance the mobility of, like, certain champions that are very good at getting really fast and running people down, like Quinn or Rammus, or if you have Juggernauts on your team and you want to try to help speed up your front line to get them in, Shirelia's is still good for that, and the active on Shirelia's is still good. And then Prowler's Claw is the last one. Longer cooldown on Prowler's Claw, less lethality. You can only target champions with it now, and less lethality on the Ornn version too. So that's a pretty heavy nerf to Prowler's Claw. Like, I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of, like, Prowler's Claw Varus and Prowler's Claw on, like, non-melee assassins. Like, lethality poke people, like Jace and Varus and, you know, those types, I don't think they're going to be building Prowler's Claw anymore. I don't think it's a good idea. Probably go back to Duskblade on them, or maybe Eclipse, you know, depending on what you need. But probably not Prowler's Claw on the range guys anymore. Prowler's Claw is probably still good for, like, melee assassins, like Kha'Zix, Zed maybe, etc., right? They might be good for it. But that's a pretty heavy nerf across the board to Prowler's Claw. Like, longer cooldown, less lethality, and you can only target champions with it now. That's, like, heavy nerfs to Prowler's Claw. Okay, we're still going on the patch notes. Like I said, this is a big patch, so that's why we're doing this rundown. And then we will play in a little bit, too. Mana Mythics. While there are a few strong mages, the class as a whole is weaker than in previous seasons. To remedy this, we're putting some of their Mythics on the clearance rack to help them reach their first power spike earlier. This won't solve all their problems, but should be an appreciable boost up. Be keeping a close eye. So, Leandries, when you have the components and you're combining, is only 1,000 gold, not 1,200. Luden's, similar idea, 1050 instead of 1250. And Everfrost, when you have all components, is now 250, down from 450. Awesome. I love that. It just means I get to get my build going faster on Zill, which is good. Since that's all I really play in ranked. Yeah, I'm happy for that. Really happy for that. Especially since, like, getting a mythic on a mage is such a essential turning point, right? You're, like, kind of a champion, and then you get your mythic, and you're like, okay, I'm actually a champion now. I can do things. No, Prowler's Claw was so cool, Sag. I mean, yeah, it's still there, and I think it's still going to be cool to use, like, for stuff like Kha'Zix. Like, I've played a couple games of Kha'Zix with it, a few patches ago, mind you, but it was really good on him. It felt really good on him to, like, stealth and, like, leap and, like, Prowler's Claw through somebody and, like, just fucking nothing personnel kid, like, burst him and jump out. It felt really good. But yeah, it is a pretty heavy nerf across the board regardless. So it's just not going to be the go-to for a lot of champions, right? Like for like recently, like it's been like the mythic for a lot of lethality builders, and now it's just not going to be as necessary as it has been. So again, the whole goal of all these changes is to reduce all of the free mobility and make sure that champions that are meant to be not very mobile stay not very mobile, and they don't suddenly become mobile assassins just because they built one item, you know? So, makes good sense there. Mana Mythics got buffed. Moonstone, getting more buffed, even better. So, I love Moonstone, personally. I think it's really good, kind of sleeper OP, again, honestly. I like that Moonstone is getting buffed a bit more. Whenever I get to play a more Enchanter Zillion, either in support or sometimes in mid, if we have other magic damage, then I like building Moonstone on him. So, I enjoy this. Stridebreaker nerf is hilarious. It makes you lose AD. That is true. That I forgot about that. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So Stridebreaker. So when you build Stridebreaker, the components of Stridebreaker should add up to 45 AD. But when you finish Stridebreaker, you just kind of lose 5 AD baseline because reasons. It should be worth noting that the damage on the slash scales harder now. So in isolation, it is a little bit awkward that Stridebreaker loses AD when you complete it. That is awkward and not intuitive, and that should be changed, in my opinion. But it's like the damage part of Stridebreaker is still strong. And yeah, it does feel bad, exactly. It feels bad to buy it, for sure. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see less Stridebreaker. We might see more Gore Drinker or Divine Sunderer on the fighters for their mythic. Divine Sunderer is still very strong, so, and has not been nerfed anymore in this patch, so... Oh no, excuse me. I lied. Take that back. Stridebreaker has been nerfed on ranged people, so Ezreal is not going to be able to get as much damage out of it. Still strong on melees, though. So, did I say Stridebreaker? Divine Sunderer, sorry. I'm losing it. Divine Sunderer is still just as strong for melees. So we might see more Divine Sunderer on the guys that would otherwise have built Stridebreaker. Now that Stridebreaker's been nerfed. And not as strong on ranged. So that hurts the Ezreal build. We might see Ezreal go back to like a Duskblade build maybe. Maybe he goes into Trinity Force again. I don't know. I think this is still strong for Ezreal if you're against... if you want to play a very safe build and you're against like other tanks, like if the enemy team has like 3 melee tanky frontliners, I think Divine Sunderer is still pretty strong on Ezreal, in my opinion, but obviously not nearly as strong as it was before. So, yeah, not just Ezreal, but definitely Ezreal. Runes. So, Nimbus Cloak getting nerfed a little bit as well to cut back on the mobility. So, 10% less later in the game. It's still 5% and 20% early on, and then 25 instead of 35% later in the game, so makes sense. Ghost Poro is getting buffed because no one uses it. I like that. I need to compare that with Zombie Ward for support, because I usually run Zombie Ward when I play support, and if Ghost Poro is a bit better now, then I might start running Ghost Poro, so that's cool. Turret update. In recent seasons, top and bot inner towers haven't been a strategic objective due to their lack of value in comparison to other objectives on the map. To tackle this, so this is top and bot inner towers, so we're talking about top lane and bot lane tier 2 towers is what we're talking about. To tackle this, we're making these turret takedowns more rewarding so that players are encouraged to look for leads in the side lanes, and split pushing remains a viable, exciting strategy across all levels of play. This advantage should also help the split pusher feel like they have more agency to snowball into a big old threat that can't be ignored. This is also scaring me for the sake of solo queue and for split pushers and people refusing to work with your teammates and all that kind of stuff. So this kind of gives me vibes that like we might almost go back to, like, if anybody remembers like season 3. Like, Season 3, split pushing was very, very viable. Where you could, like, I used to main, at that time in Season 3, I mained Jax and Tryndamere and old Aatrox in the top lane. Because that was my desperation climbing strategy. And all I would do is ignore the team and split push. And just farm like a motherfucker and try to go for solo kills and split push, right? That's kind of what this feels like a little bit to me. You know, this could be good for Singed as well, though, because Singed is also a split pusher, even though he doesn't build... That is a bit of a shame that Singed can't really take advantage of Hullbreaker. Because I saw Pineapple in the chat talking about Singed. And, like, getting the extra armor and MR is good for him, and the extra damage to towers is good for him. Maybe you can fit this into a Singed build. Right? I'm curious if you could, because, like, you don't want to build AD on Singed normally, but, like, this would help him take towers faster, and it does buff up the minions so he can split push. So maybe you could fit that into a Singed build. I'm curious. I'm curious if we see some of that. I don't think it's ideal on its own, right? Because... But I think it's better... He's better in team fights to burger flip people and run away. Exactly, yeah. So if you're going to play Singed like that, and you're not only split pushing, then this isn't great, right? You know, I think Singe's pattern tends to be, like, you split a little bit just to, like, quickly clear a wave or two with your poison, and then you join a team fight, and you flank, right? So this maybe isn't, you know, an option for him, but I don't know. Maybe. Maybe there is a dedicated, like, split-pushing focus Singed that would build this. I don't know. So we got mobility nerfs, we got Moonstone buff, we got Divine Sunderer nerf, Nimbus Cloak nerfed, Ghost Poro buffed, turrets adjusted, inner turrets in top and bot lane are worth more, and all turret inventories now show how much gold they give once destroyed, which is kind of nice. Maybe with some wacky rune and play style it might work, yeah, maybe. Smite. Challenging and chilling Smite give junglers early access to true damage against minions, which is especially punishing to early ranks of ultimate summoned pets like Tibbers, Heimerdinger's Turret, Daisy, and the Maiden of the Mist from York. We're adding a damage modifier to the Smites so that smiting pets can still remain as a strategic choice for junglers throughout the game, but they can't... Excuse me. But they are not able to completely obliterate low-rank ultimate pets as soon as Smite upgrades. So this was, this is basically a follow-up on a little bit of oversight from when they adjusted Smite. So when they adjusted Smite last patch or 2 patches ago, to where once you finish your Smite item and you consume it, your Smite goes from 450 damage flat to 900 damage flat, and Smite damage is no longer scaling with your level, right? When that happened, if Ivern summoned Daisy early, the 900 damage Smite would just one-shot Daisy and just kill it outright. Just like, poof, Daisy gone. Right? Which, like, basically just killed Ivern. There's, like, Ivern can't do shit at that point. And then just as a reminder, minions includes pets, but does not include monsters. So monster damage numbers are unchanged. So when you're jungling and you're clearing your monster camps and all that in the jungle, that's fine. Smiting for dragon, the same. Smiting for baron, crab, herald, that's the same as before. Only when you are smiting champion units that are summoned by champions like Tibbers and Hibernator's big turret and Daisy and Yorick's ulti, that does less damage. So now it is 500 flat plus 10% of the target's max health against those units. So you can still use it to quickly burst it down, but it's not going to be a guaranteed one-shot anymore, basically. And then some more ARAM balance changes that we don't care about. Some bug fixes and quality of life changes. We'll take a look at that real quick. Fixed a bug where, when disguised, Nico's purple bar displayed the selected ally's health instead of her current health. Mundo's attacks with E feel less sluggish between basic attacks. Mundo's passive did not go on cooldown when blocking Mordekaiser's R, which was a big bug. I'm glad they fixed that. Also, I'm just now realizing how big of a counter to Mordekaiser Mundo is. That's kind of crazy. Updated Corporate Mundo, Macho Mundo, Executioner Mundo, Mr. Mundo Verse, Mundo Mundo, and TPA Mundo Q to be more visible when used in brushes. That's good, because I was playing against the Mundo in a normal a couple days ago, and I could not see his fucking Q to save my life. It was just, it might as well have been invisible. Like, I saw, like, kind of like the particles on the side of it, like the, like, whooshing particles when he throws it, but, like, I could not see the actual projectile. And it is a fast projectile, so it is hard to dodge, but, like, I couldn't sidestep the bitch. It was just like, I was just getting pelted by trophies. Fixed a bug where Sion was able to respawn in his current location if his passive lasted longer than the death timer. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty big bug. Grounded and silenced debuffs from AoE abilities such as Singe's W, Soraka's E, and Cassiopeia's W can no longer be removed with Cleanse if the player is in the ability's AoE. That makes sense. So basically, if a player had Cleanse and was inside of, like, Singe's little goo puddle, they're grounded, so they can't use, like, flash or dashes or anything like that. But if they had Cleanse, they could cleanse the grounding and then use it. And they cannot do that anymore. So that's good. So that's a nice little buff to enemies with grounding properties like that. The support tab now properly appears over the popular filter in the in-game shop. Star Guardian Jinx's lines without play when she purchases an item. Static Shiv's purchase lines are relocated to Stormrazor because Static Shiv was removed and Stormrazor still exists. So any champions that had Static Shiv purchase lines are now on Stormrazor. Fixed a bug where Aphelios would heal from spells instead of basic attacks when using his R with Severum. That's a good fix, yeah. I've seen someone QSS a knockup and then they flashed him in there. Yeah, that kind of shit's nutty. That kind of shit's crazy. Fixed a bug where Meganar's basic attack from base attack damage from his passive was inconsistent with its tooltip, and fixed a bug where Rammus's Q volume was affected by his voiceover, which is kind of funny. And then new skins coming out. We're getting Project Z Prestige tomorrow, and then a little bit later we're getting Astronaut Maokai, Rammus, Vigar, and Corki, along with the chromas for those four. The Astronaut Corki one looks really good. I'm not super impressed with the other ones. The Rammus one is pretty cool, but I have Hextech Rammus, so I don't really care about it. But Astronaut Corki looks really, really good. I love the particles on it. And that is the 11.13 rundown. I like doing patch rundowns from time to time. I know obviously a lot of other people do them, and do them probably better than I do, but I do like my version of doing it live on stream with people, and occasionally getting to, you know, answer questions and bring up some other stuff from people. And this was a massive patch, so it's useful for me to look through it, just so I am aware of all the changes in as much depth as possible. And hopefully you guys listening enjoyed it to some degree as well. I should, but I'm very inconsistent with this. I might take this as like a separate highlight and put it on YouTube or something like that. I think it's a good idea. I might do that. So, yeah. That was 11.13, the patch rundown. And after being live for now an hour and 22 minutes, we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to play some games. So that should be good. Yeah? Okay? All right. So we're going to just have our queue ready here. I'll queue up mid and support. Zill. I like it. Pretty informative. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. And thank you for tuning in. We are just getting started for today. So, yeah, we did the patch rundown. We're going to take a break here now, and I'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll actually play some League of Legends. Sound good? All right. Be right back, everybody.